Jack Ma, where have you gone, bro? We're looking for you. Last week, we put out a video talking about China and some of the ways that buying Chinese stocks might not be exactly what you think it is. And I also mentioned a bunch of the drama going on recently with Jack Ma, AliBaba, Ant Group, and the Chinese Communist Party. And what that means for us as investors, what that means for maybe some of you guys are invested in Chinese stocks or in AliBaba or in Jack Ma's other companies. Today, we're going to take a look at that. First of all, welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Trey, getting in touch with you from Japan. Happy New Year's. Thank you guys very much for an excellent 2020 of growth and fun times here on the channel. I know it's been a very, very hard year for a lot of us. One of our other main businesses is still getting its face kicked inside out, but hopefully through community, through working together and talking together and powering through these things, we can move into a new, brighter 2021. So looking forward to a really successful 2021 with you guys. If you haven't seen last week's video about Chinese stocks, click up here to check it out. Basically, I talked about how investing in Chinese companies is very different than investing in most other companies' stocks. And basically, that comes down to the way companies have set up these things called VIEs, variable interest entities. And so if you're an American, if you're investing through the New York Stock Exchange, you're investing in these variable interest entities, not the actual company, NEO or Alibaba or JD or whatever it is. So you don't actually own the assets or the income streams or anything like that the company actually owns. And why is that? Because the Chinese government owns everything in China. We're seeing a really interesting dynamic evolving over the last 10, 20, 30 years in China, where it's communist, but it's also capitalist. And now Britain has returned Hong Kong back to China, and Hong Kong was just straight up capitalist. And so they're kind of like, they have one country, two systems going on. And there's this really weird fusion of capitalism and communism. And Jack Ma is aware of that. And Jack Ma has spent a lot of time internationally as well. And Jack Ma kind of spoke up and criticized the Chinese government and said, hey, the way we do banking in this country isn't that awesome for small business. Why do small businesses have to prove how many resources and how much money they have before you're willing to trust them with money? This way, like, the small guy can never get a start. Hey guys, that's stupid. And then after that, the Chinese government crunched down on him. They shut down or delayed the IPO of the Ant Group. And then a bunch of other stuff started happening. And then he disappeared. And we don't really know if that was a forced disappearance or if he was just kind of like, psh, you need to shut up for a while. And then now he's just chilling at home with no social media. Or maybe he's in prison. Hopefully he's still alive. That's the kind of stuff you're dealing with when you're dealing with the Chinese government. Business Insider dropped an article a few hours ago talking about Jack Ma's disappearance. They also highlighted a bunch of other well-known Chinese people who've gotten into trouble or disappeared in similar circumstances. Check this out. Ren Jiqiang, a retired real estate tycoon, fell off the radar in March after accusing the Communist Party of mishandling the coronavirus pandemic, the New York Times reported. Beijing later sentenced him, 69 years old, to 18 years in prison. Goes on to highlight another person, Xiao Jianhua, an asset manager, was abducted from a hotel in Hong Kong in January 2017, Reuters reported. Xiao disappeared into Chinese custody, and the country later seized parts of his company, Tomorrow Group, the Times reported in July. Regulators had accused Xiao and other tycoons of taking would-be investors away from Chinese stock markets, The Guardian said. So it actually wouldn't really be a surprise if they had control of Jack Ma. It's alarming, and it's uncomfortable, and it's not justice. But when you're investing in Chinese stocks, you're supporting this system and you're supporting that way of doing things. So for me personally, there's a very big I don't want any part of that. I'm okay not supporting that. I know on one hand, the economic miracle of China's growth has brought like 1 billion people out of poverty on one hand, which is cool. But on the other hand, we hear about the mass detainments in Hong Kong. We hear about the Uyghur slave labor in Western China and like so many other things like that. And it's all the same group running and manhandling everything. And so not only are you not investing in Chinese companies when you buy Chinese stocks like Baba on the New York Stock Exchange, but you're also supporting this kind of behavior. And so the question really comes down to you. Like, do you have the emotional conviction to be okay with that? Yeah, you might be able to make some money, but you could also make money selling crack to kids in the park. Is that okay with you? For some people, it's not. For some people, they don't care because it's money. And obviously that's like a very harsh example, and it's not that black and white, I think. But I think that's a challenge for you to be thinking about, especially as we're seeing somebody like Jack Ma out of the public spotlight for 2 months. So if you're not too familiar with Jack Ma, he was the CEO of Alibaba. He started it up. He was one of the co-founders, and then later on was the leader of the board of directors. And I think in 2018, he retired, and he's just been doing other stuff, a lot of philanthropy, and also I think he's really interested in doing a lot of teaching and helping people to develop and grow. But nevertheless, inevitably, you will see once this news about Jack Ma maybe disappearing, it will impact Alibaba's stock. Like, that's how stupid and short-sighted a lot of investors are in the world. You see things like when Tesla started taking off, Tesla, started taking off, another company, TLSA, Tiziana Life Sciences, blew up too because people just spelled it wrong. And that shows you like how little research so many people are willing to do when they're putting in orders on their phone. And I did a few weeks ago about myself making an error with a Tesla order. We made a little funny skit out of it. If you haven't seen it, please check it out up here. And actually that's a true story. But things like people still associate Jack Ma with Alibaba, and we're also seeing the stock prices generally trending down as the Chinese government is pulling off like antitrust probes on Alibaba. They're basically saying like, hey, you and the biggest guys can't just do price fixing and just say, hey, we're the only ones that offer this product, so let's just say $100 and forget about competition, and then we'll make more money. That's price fixing. That's not capitalism. And interestingly, the Chinese government is anti-price fixing and antitrust for some reason. But I've heard that there are other banks who were like, dude, what they're doing is screwing us. Hey, government, can you stop them? And so those kinds of financial interests actually take precedence over morals or the way of doing things or, helping everybody a lot of times in China is my understanding. And so there's this antitrust probe that's already brought the stock price down. So check it out, starting like right around the beginning of October, we started to see things go down, and it's going down, it's down like $70 off of its high. But on the flip side, we've also seen Alibaba put out this press release saying that growth in uncertain times, China's share of global luxury market reaches new high despite COVID-19, and talking about how Alibaba is really crucial in that. So these are all really different kind of like, oh man, what do I do? Type things, especially if you're investing in Alibaba or Chinese companies that could be affected by these kinds of things. And at the same time, zoom out one more time even again, and we're starting to see a lot of the kind of like feedback and backlash from the previous US administration's way of doing things in regards to like working smoothly with foreign countries. And there's been a few different times where countries were like, hey, we're seeing China's getting too powerful and we can't stop them, so why don't we all team up and make an alliance or make a union or make a trade pact and just leave them out of it? That way it'll help all of our countries grow. None of them really have gone well, and now China is starting to do the same thing against the US. Check it out in this New York Times article. It says, with concessions and deals, China's leader tries to box out Biden. Xi Jinping has made trade agreements in Asia and now Europe, hoping to head off the incoming president's efforts to rally a united front against China. And if China can box out the US from these different trade agreements, then it's not that absurd to expect them to become the world dominant power like the US has been for the last little while. We're also seeing reports of Chinese diplomats who are getting cozy with Biden, and there have also been reports of Biden, kind of like being a little bit uncomfortably chummy with a lot of Chinese politicians or diplomats. And so it's quite hard to say. And I've actually read reports that say literally like he's already in China's pocket, like China just runs America kind of thing, And you can chase that rabbit hole down for a very long time, and you could look at Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro and all these different people who talk about these kinds of things. And that's not the purpose of this channel, but all that to say, bring it back out to the beginning. How are you going to invest when you see all of this change going on in the world? Are you comfortable investing in Chinese stocks? Are you comfortable with that gamble, with that risk, that it's potentially actually even contributing to overthrowing the US and other Western powers and democracy in general? there's really a lot to consider, and it's not just Jack Ma that's on the line here. If we amplify this and zoom out over the next 10, 20 years, it could end up having very, very big backlash on the entire planet, actually. Whether you're comfortable sitting on your yacht in the Bahamas or you're like making $5 a year working in a sweatshop in Western China or something like that. Like, the world is going to be changing a lot. And so for me, like I shared in the last video, I'm not really comfortable investing in Chinese stocks. The growth is appealing, certainly. And actually, the economic fallout of supporting poor countries and seeing hundreds of millions of people come out of poverty is pretty dope, actually. And that's one of my life passions, to hire people and help people and grow stuff and give money to help people. I love doing that, but I'm not okay with all the baggage that goes along with it. Europe, on the other hand, like we just saw in this New York Times article, is like, hey, China, stop doing that. Hey, slavery's bad. Hey, the way you're dealing with human rights is like not fair. Stop it. And then Xi Jinping comes in, and all of a sudden, the leaders of France and Germany and all these other EU leaders are kind of like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good deal. Cool, let's do it. And it's like, that's pretty scary to think about. I don't know. What do you guys think about? Are you like uncomfortable with this? Are you fine with it? Are you going to only invest in North American companies? What do you think about it? For me personally, like I said, not in love with China stocks, but I am still very excited about the future. We were talking about ARK Invest recently in another video too, and the Roku holdings. Tesla is changing the world. We have all different kinds of genomic stuff coming up in the ARKG fund, which I'm about to do a video on hopefully sometime soon. And all kinds of other really exciting stuff that's also going to change the world as well. Palantir is another stock a lot of you guys are really excited about. Super big on national defense and defending democracy, even though the leader is a socialist. Really kind of a lot of interesting stuff, and I think we're in for a lot of change going into the coming years. Really interested to know what your thoughts are. I'm expecting a little bit more heat down in the comments section. I'm not racist. I love you guys. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.